to Reign, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of Reign, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the power of branding. Branding is not just for big corporations. It's a crucial asset for real estate investors too. Here are 7 reasons why branding your real estate business is essential. Number 1, credibility and trust. A strong brand conveys professionalism and reliability. When potential sellers, partners, or buyers recognize your brand, they are more likely to trust you with their real estate needs and investments. Number 2, differentiation. The real estate market can be competitive, and branding helps you stand out. A well-defined brand identity and messaging sets you apart from others in the industry, making it easier for people to remember you. Number 3, consistency. Branding ensures that your image and message remains consistent across all your marketing efforts. This consistency reinforces your reputation and helps people understand what to expect when working with you. Number 4, attracts partnerships. Strong branding can attract potential business partners, lenders, or investors who see your brand as a symbol of stability and success. It opens doors to collaborations that may not have been available otherwise. Number 5, client loyalty. A memorable brand fosters client loyalty. When clients have a positive experience with your brand, they are more likely to return for future transactions and recommend your services to others. Number 6, value perception. A well-crafted brand can elevate the perceived value of your properties or investments. It allows you to command higher prices and negotiate more favorable deals, ultimately boosting your returns. Number 7, marketing efficiency. A recognizable brand simplifies your marketing efforts. People are more likely to engage your content, click on your listings, and respond to your communications if they already have a positive perception of your brand. So remember, your brand encompasses more than just a logo or slogan. It embodies your values, mission, and your unique promise you bring to the real estate market. Invest time in crafting a brand that reflects your business's identity and values, and consistently reinforce it through all your interactions and marketing efforts. Over time, a badass brand can become one of your most valuable assets as a real estate investor. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my friend Greyson Kupfer. Greyson grew up in a real estate family. His parents have been real estate agents for over 30 years, and they tried hard to push him into real estate. Instead, his biggest goal was getting a college scholarship for lacrosse, which included a season in Australia shortly after graduating. Once he returned to the States, Greyson started to build his first company, which included marketing and services for agents. Now he runs a successful wholesale business going on 11 years, which has taught him to always be ready to pivot in this ever-changing industry. It is my pleasure to have him on the show, so welcome, Greyson.
Hello, thank you, Jen.
Absolutely. And this is your first legit solo podcast. I love popping podcast cherries.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
And it's so funny because I always only knew you as Greyson. I was like, wait, how do I say your last name? So Kupfer, did I say it right?
Yep. Perfect.
Well, I want to hear, so you grew up in a real estate family. My mom was a realtor as well. And how did you get involved with real estate investing though?
So kind of funny. When I was about 12 years old, my parents gave me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Just to kind of get that different perspective. Like my parents have always been entrepreneurs. We had the cash flow for kids game. I don't know if you're familiar with that as well.
I have the cash flow game. That's a good game,
the
actually.
Cash flows.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's one for the kids as well, a little bit more entry level, if you will. So I always had that mindset, right? And even going into college, and I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be a business owner. I just didn't know what necessarily, which kind of led me down a couple different paths, as you can imagine. But before going to college, that's where that light bulb kind of went off. And when I figured out how to help those types of people in this business.
I like that your parents did that, because when I read that they were agents, a lot of times agents can't get that mindset of wearing the investor hat, because it really does, you have to change that mindset basically. And we've had students go through Homeschooled by Tarek, and they are agents, but just trying to get them to shift to using hard money lenders, different types of lending, etc., private money lenders, using private loans to fund a property. So it is tough to really get that shift. But you mentioned that after college, you started working for a very large company, Bank of America. And what was your job at Bank of America?
Yeah, so it was actually right before I went to college.
Oh, okay.
So it was my senior year of high school, that summer between. Ended up working with them, I think, for about 8 months, but we were doing a cash for keys program. So back in 2009, 2010, as we all know, some things hit the fan, right? My parents went through it. We all had to pivot.
You could say shit.
Okay, that's fair. For me, it was my job to go around. I get emotional telling the story sometimes, so bear with me. It was my job to go between 12 to 15 homes every single day and essentially offer them a $3,000 check to leave their home. And I would go with a locksmith. I would kick them out of their house. And it was devastating.
You were 17 or 18 years old?
I was 18 years old. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
and
big picture here, though. The bank is foreclosing on it because of when the bubble burst in 2008, basically.
Exactly.
And so they hired you to go and offer cash for keys.
Yeah, because what people were doing, they're so mad and they had no really way out, and they would go through the houses and they would just wreck them and tear down the second stories and break the plumbing and the cabinets. So the bank wanted to give them some type of incentive not to do that. And that was my job.
Wow. Not a pleasurable experience.
No, it was to this day, like I said, it still makes me emotional thinking about it.
Oh, that's awful. And that kind of is what was your compass to finding wholesaling. So how did that turn into becoming a wholesaler? Because you are by far one of the most badass wholesalers I know. So
Thank you.
How did it evolve into that?
So I was getting into the real estate side of it. And I had some other friends that were kind of dabbling with wholesaling, some investing stuff. And once I realized what wholesaling really was and what I could do with it, it gave me the thought and the passion that I could have helped every single one of those people out of that situation with what I know now. And it's really, like you said, it's almost been my compass to be able to pivot and to continue working at it and working at this trade. Not just going straight into flipping and trying to make quick cash, but to truly give people that option, right?
And that's really what it is. It's another option for a seller to work with a wholesaler. So explain to the audience what exactly is a wholesaler.
Yeah. So essentially what a wholesaler is they're an investor. They're a middleman. I always use an analogy, if that's okay.
Of course.
Because sometimes looking at the big numbers of real estate, it kind of scares people and kind of gets misconstrued. So I always use an analogy. Imagine your friend comes to you and says, I'm willing to pay $10,000 for this Honda Civic. It has less than 50,000 miles on it. You come across it. You see one for sale for 7. You put that under contract. Your friend said he was going to pay 10, and now you're going to make that middleman money. You're essentially just passing it right off. The seller gets their 7, you get the 3, and your friend gets the car.
And everybody's happy.
And everybody's happy. Exactly. So you're providing a service. And I like to say that as a wholesaler, there's 2 types of wholesalers. There's one that's a concierge service to their buyers. And there's another one that's kind of sneaky and running around at night. You know what I mean? So like for me, I love to be that concierge and being very transparent with the sellers, the buyers. It just makes our job so much easier.
And that's why you're so good at what you do. And there are a lot more that you say, there's this type and this type, but the latter type that you talked about, the dishonesty and with all the daisy chaining and all this craziness is like, it's really, really getting out of control. And so I'm glad you pointed that out, because probably 25% of our business has come from wholesalers, and I've had to fish through some really bad ones. And I also want to say, you're talking about the middleman, and I brought up, because you're talking about the car for $7,000, assigns the contract to his friend for $10,000. The middleman gets the $3,000. And I said, all parties are happy. So people, and I don't know why I'm like going off on this, but a lot of people think about wholesalers as being dirty, all of them, but there are great ones, and you bust your ass to find these properties. And in addition to hustling, getting the properties, you have to have a massive list of buyers that are going to buy those properties. A lot of people get in and forget about the whole, I got to assign this to someone. But my point is, my long-winded point here is that it shouldn't matter what the wholesaler is making, that middleman, because there's a lot of work that goes in wholesaling. And there are investors that get caught up on, oh my gosh, they're making $30,000 on this. Who cares if your numbers make sense? So I'm sure you deal with people like that all the time. But I went off on a tangent. Sorry, Grayson. No, but let's go back to having, finding the houses, and then also the importance of having that buyer's list. How does that work for you?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to focus on the buyers first for a second. Cause it is so important. Like you say, when you create these relationships with those buyers, like you need to leave some skin on the bone for them. You are middlemaning these properties, but they need to be successful. Otherwise they're not going to want to buy from you anymore. I'm very transparent with my buyers. I've got about 5, I call my VIPs. And I will literally text them prior to me having it under contract sometimes, and say, hey, this is what I got. What do you want to pay for it? They'll give me that price. And now I have the ability to so they say they want to pay 150. I know if I get it at 145, I'll make $5,000. If I get it at 130, I make 20. If I get it at 100, I make 50. So it kind of helps us both out in utilizing that transparency on both ends.
And that's so, so very important. I have wholesalers that I will say, hey, I am your condo and townhome babe. You get anything built between 1985 and 2000 or something, and bring it to me. I will buy it in a heartbeat. So I love that you mentioned that you have your VIP buyers, because my neighbor next door, his name is Chris Papadopoulos, and he doesn't have a website. He has a Gmail email account, but he flips over 100 houses a year. And he just has a slew of wholesalers out there finding properties to take to him because they know he's going to buy. So let's go to the other side now on how you find your properties as a wholesaler.
Yeah, so it's changed. It's changed a lot, and it's kind of funny in the market that we're in now.
I laugh because that's so true.
It's so true, right? Yes. What I did 10 years ago when I was 22 years old, it's actually kind of coming back a little bit though, which is weird, right? We were sending letters and we were door knocking and we were actually making phone calls and not texting and all these other easy ways to do it, right? And referrals and everything else. And then all of a sudden it kind of shifted into all this tech. Now we have the AI and all this stuff, and now there's new regulations with it. So we're actually finding ourselves as the baby boomers are getting a little bit older, right?
Easy
there's a
now.
lot of fraud. I know.
I'm not a baby boomer. I'm joking.
I know. But there's a lot of fraud, and they're scared to answer their phones. They don't want to click on links because it could potentially be spam. So we're going back to letterheads, and we're going back to aggressive mailing and going to the people that they might be needing to utilize. So sometimes the assisted living facilities, or it's attorneys, or kind of have to backdoor it a little bit more to gain that trust, because a third party referral is always going to be better than me cold calling somebody.
Oh, absolutely. So you mentioned, what'd you say, nursing homes? And nursing
homes, attorneys, other real estate agents, hairdressers.
That's super
moving
smart.
Companies. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Moving companies. That's a good one too. Mm-hmm. So What about like your letter verbiage or verbiage? And by the way, it's correct to say it both ways, verbiage or verbiage. But
Is it okay?
what does your marketing, and I was talking about branding in my badassery bestowment, but what do you put in your letter that maybe makes yours stand out a little bit? Or
yeah, we do
postcard?
some different things. It depends on the lead, of course. You're not going to send the same letter to every single type of person, right? A foreclosure is going to be different than a probate. A probate, you're obviously going in a little bit softer and just looking to give them resources versus just a tired landlord, because then it's more analytical. But I always go in as a small family-ran business. I never like to be looked at as the big person or the big dog on the block, because a lot of people don't want to continue to sell to hedge funds now with Open Door and OfferPad and all these other companies. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
okay, cool.
We curse them out all the time. Keep going.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, there's times like I would go into properties, there'd be Zillow there, OfferPad, and Open Door, all at the same property, the same appointment time. And I would get the deal for less because they trusted me.
Yes.
And we built that relationship.
I love that you brought this up, because same thing. I'll see the OfferPad postcard or something there, and I'm like, oh, I see. And they're like, yeah, they're coming after your appointment. I said, well, listen, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm a mom and pop organization. They will most likely offer you more. I'm just telling you, if you work with me, the number I give you is the number you're going to get at closing. There's no hidden fees. And I will be the easiest transaction you will ever deal with, because those companies, when you call them, you get a different person every single time. Then they're going to say, oh, well, we found this at your property. We need you to do this, et cetera. So it's okay that we mention those names, because,
Cool.
Being an individual like yourself running, well, you have some people working for you though, correct?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I was like, I know he doesn't do this all by himself, but
there's no way. Yeah.
Yes. And when I was asking about the message that you do, so I'm actually the opposite. I do one generic message. I don't change it going from probate to pre-foreclosure. Mine is simply thinking of selling. We buy homes as is. We offer fair price. We can close on your timeline. Like literally that's my message across the board, only because I don't want to come off sounding like not being genuine with my feelings towards someone. So I see a lot of these postcards that say, call today for your all cash offer. Is that like how you get people in, or what is your message say?
I mean, for example, my pre-foreclosure one, I tell my story. I straight up tell my story, the things that I went through working with that big company. And going through the Cash for Keys program. My parents actually lost a lot of properties in 2008. They lost their entire portfolio. Almost went through a divorce. So I've seen what it can do to families and how it tears them apart. So by me, I think sharing that vulnerability also helps a little bit as well.
Very well said.
So that's just an example. Yeah.
Very good. So how does one, as a wholesaler, we're going to kind of change direction here. How does one scale their business? Because I know, we're talking about pivoting and you really have to, keep the pulse on the real estate market going on. But how do you scale a wholesaling business?
So I learned, and obviously through a mentor of mine, it was something that he's perfected, and I knew that I was ready to take that next step, but not until after I already did it. So my brother was playing lacrosse up in Northern Arizona University, and their coach got transferred, and you don't get paid much as a college lacrosse coach. So they were actually talking about canceling his senior season. And so he called me with my experience. He's like, is there any way you could help coach up in Flagstaff? Like, dude, that's 2.5 hours away. I ended up saying yes. And I was doing commutes from Phoenix back and forth upwards of 4 or 5 times a week just to run my business. And then I started wholesaling up in Flagstaff. So I did delegate some things down in the valley. I hired some people to help me out, built my Flagstaff team, and then obviously moved back to Phoenix after that. And that's how I started scaling. The hardest part was just the management and being in control and making sure you're keeping everybody happy, right? And that's always a tough thing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, so at one point, and I've scaled down from there now just because it seems to be a little bit more my niche. But at one point I had about 14 employees working across the entire state.
Wow. So do you ever flip houses yourself?
We do, yeah.
So how do you differentiate, like when a deal comes across your desk, oh, I'm going to wholesale this one, or I'm going to keep this and flip it?
I like to say we're cherry picking it. I mean, wholesaling is an acquisition strategy. Essentially, what we're talking about is acquisitions. Wholesale is just one exit strategy, and you can decide what you want to do with it. One of them that we've picked up has been turned into an Airbnb. We've done several flips, lots of long-term rentals, stuff like that. But that's essentially when you see it come across your table and you're like, damn, this is a great deal. You're going to figure out any way you possibly can to get it done. Especially in the beginning, I think it was $160,000 I put on credit cards to get my first flip done when I was 24 years old.
Ooh.
And it took 9 months. It was a big one. It was in Scottsdale, great neighborhood. I think we ended up making maybe about $15,000 on it, but it was an amazing learning experience.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you have used that education that's propelled your business and
Absolutely.
By flipping houses as a wholesaler, it makes you a better wholesaler.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because now you're putting yourself in their shoes. And like I said, you're a concierge service of them, right? And you're there to help them and support their business. And if you don't know what the construction cost is going to be, or to look for certain things that would maybe throw off your numbers, if you were to flip it yourself, then how are you supposed to do that for somebody else? And it really muddies the water when you send a buyer a property and say, this is what it's going to cost to fix up. This is the ARV. And then you look at it and it's totally wrong. And then you just lose all credibility.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's huge. Yep.
So there's a lot of young guns, I call them, these kids coming into, I say that because I just turned 50, but there's all these young folks coming in and they want to do the get rich quick scheme and think that wholesaling is the way because I got to get capital to keep flipping houses. And you're shaking your head for the listeners who can't see. And yes, and I know you agree with that, but what advice do you have for people that are coming in and they're like, that's what I want to do. I want to make money quick. I'm going to just wholesale and that's how I'm going to get my money fast. What advice do you have for them? Don't do it.
Say why. No, I'm going to say why though. I mean, why do you need to do it? Because it is almost just as easy to find the capital. Like if you want to go and learn how to start flipping houses, learn how to start flipping houses. Like the capital is there. It just seems to be the biggest barrier to entry in people's minds, but it's not real. For me, I have a passion behind wholesaling, which is why I've created this business out of it. And I'll always run this business because of that's part of my why. And that's what I'm passionate about. So make sure you're doing it for the right reason and figure out what you really want to do. If you want to learn acquisitions and start flipping houses, you can still have the ability to do that. And maybe you cherry pick one and wholesale the other 9, right? So I think it's still very important to have it and to know it, but make sure you're doing it for the right reasons.
So well said. And I mean, I think they get in, they realize, or maybe they get something under contract, but then the contract falls through because they didn't focus on that buyer's list, which is a huge aspect. And a lot of people just forget it and steamroll past that.
Or let me add one more thing into there too. Or you can't force a strategy on a property. That property might not be right for wholesaling. It might be a better lease option or seller financing or whatever it is, right? Sub 2. But you can't force a wholesale deal onto it because that's why it's going to fall out, because maybe it's not the right price and that's not the right exit. So you do need to know all those different things as well.
Very well said. And I want to spend just a minute on that because I use wholesaling as an exit strategy. My number one focus is to get a property to flip to make a chunk of change. But and back when I was flipping a lot more single family homes, now I'm focused on multifamily, but when we were doing the single family home flips, my sweet spot was doing 5 flips at a time. But I was continuously marketing that entire time. You never ever want to slow that down. I say ABM, always be marketing. So if I'm at 5 and then a 6th one comes across my desk, my exit strategy is to wholesale that to someone. I will go look at the property as promised in my marketing materials, get it under contract, and then I will say, oh, this will be a good fit for this person. This will be a good fit for this person. I will just literally reach out to my other investor friends and assign it to them. And everybody's happy. The seller's happy, the investor's happy. So it all works out. And I make a little bit of change in there. Also a deal if it comes across my desk. And like you said, if it has a lot of meat on the bone, you said skin on the bone. I like meat on the bone.
Yeah, there you go.
So if there's a lot of meat on the bone and I can make a quick 30,000 because I'm getting it for such a reduced price, if I can make a quick 30,000 in 30 days, or if I keep it myself, flip it, and then can make 60,000 in 6 months, I'm going to take that 30K all day long. So it is also
Absolutely.
just a really great exit strategy. So I had to put my 2 cents in there for that.
Yeah.
Because I love how you said that. But going back, you were talking about wholesale might not be a good fit for a deal. And there is something that is new to me, but not new to you, which is called a novation. So can you please fix my brain? Because I can't wrap my brain around what exactly is a novation.
Yeah, so I think it's a broad term. So I'm going to start out that way because I don't think that term's been around for a pretty long time. What we've called it's called partnering for profit. So maybe you come into a property, and I'm going to use this example. This is one that we're doing right this second. There's unfortunately, these people are going through a divorce situation. The husband owes her about $50,000 on top of their proceeds that they're going to be receiving. She needs the money to buy a new home, get her son back into the original school district that he was originally. So he's now in this new area, staying with his aunt because they don't have a home. So again, going back to figuring out what the seller needs. If I just said, "Hey, we're going to give you a cash offer," it might not be right, and it's not right for them. So what we did is we did give them a cash offer. It was at $380. And ARV is probably around $450, right? So there's a little bit of room in there, but it needs about 35 grand of work. So it's a little bit tight, withholding costs and everything else. So instead, what we offered was, hey, you hold on to the note. We're going to pay your mortgage for the next 2 months while we get this done. At the end of it, when we sell it and list it, we're going to go ahead and we're going to split the profits. And that's actually going to net her about $25,000 more and give the ex-husband the amount that's owed to her through escrow, so she doesn't have to worry about it after the house is sold.
Oh, I like that.
Does it make sense?
That makes me nervous.
That
makes me nervous as hell, though. They're not living there at the house. They've evacuated the house, though, while this is going on.
Yep. So they'll be gone. And then we do either put a lis pendens or a deed in lieu of foreclosure or a deed of trust on the house to make sure that they can't say, "Oh, thanks." And they take their house back after it's all fixed up, and we just put 35 grand into it. So there's some logistics to it for sure. But it is a great option to not only help people, but when you have those smaller margin deals.
So, okay, so I can really wrap my brain around this. How is this different than a subject to? I mean, I understand what a subject to is, and you've just explained, but I need to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that separates like the novation from a subject to, because it's kind of all encompassing, right? Is that we're partnering with the homeowner in order to flip the property and list it as soon as possible. So we're not holding it or doing anything. We're just getting them a higher dollar amount that they need. And then it's still giving us the opportunity to get in there, do a quick cosmetic, and make our 30 grand and walk. So again, it's those lower margins, more so whatever's best for them.
Would it have worked as a subject to deal?
No, because of the divorce, and they need the money.
There you go.
Yep, you have to pay, and the cash wouldn't work because it's not enough money to pay them through escrow or to get that money out of what's owed to her by the husband.
Got it.
Which she was fearful of. Yep.
Well, I appreciate you explaining that. I
don't know if that was great explained, but
well, do you have another scenario?
Yeah. And this, again, they're not all like clean cut. So I did another one. It was a wholesale deal. I ended up partnering on it with my brother, right? So he's going to pay me $25,000 for the assignment. As soon as he closed, I got the 10 out, but I actually lent him in second position $15,000 more to go towards the closing costs and the fix up. And then we're splitting the profit out the back once it's completed. So kind of a different scenario, but also in that same realm.
And when do you get the 25,000?
So I got 10 up front upon closing, and then I get the other 15 once it sells after the flip's completed.
This is really interesting. And, because, I had to ask the Google, what is a novation in real estate? And it's just, it's taking one contract and then I guess switching it to a different contract and have all parties.
I'm matching them.
Yeah. Matching them or very similar. And then you're re-signing a new contract is basically. what the Google said. So I like your definition. It clicked a lot better the way you explained it.
And it's all situational though, like you said. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do real estate, and it really comes down to I'm going to be a broken record, but it comes down to what the sellers need. What is the best situation? And like for you as an investor and as a wholesaler, maybe not just for your buyers, but you're also a concierge, a therapist, and everything else for these sellers that are going through some shit.
I know. And what I like
about give them options.
What I like about you is you said, well, the son was living at the aunt's house because they want to stay in the same school district. Like so many people in this industry don't even get to that level of building rapport with their clients. So before we move on to the second part here, I just want you to touch base on your concierge service that you have, because I think that makes a huge difference, especially for people that are listening that are thinking, I really want to get into wholesaling. I'm not ready to flip a house yet. So what do you offer that many wholesalers do not offer?
Again, options, and like we really lay it out for them. For people in pre-foreclosure, and I'm going to give you one of my secrets. We actually will set up, if they call us or they respond to any marketing, we will set up a consultation with them. We will go to their house or do a 3-way call. We will call the bank with them and go through all the different options they may have to maybe reinstate the loan, put it on the back, and several others. And unfortunately, about 99% of the time, the bank's going to say no to every one of those options. So then from there, we're going to go ahead and move forward and say, okay, well, we do offer, well, we are investors and we can offer you cash. We can do it this way, we can do it that way. But we're the only people that are willing to take that time with them and go through that process of calling the bank and seeing if there are options of them saving the house.
And that's,
so that's an example.
That's fantastic. And then how about give me an example on the buyer side, dealing with investors? What do you provide to investors that make you stand out from other wholesalers?
Yeah, I actually got invited and I was in one of my buyers' weddings. Like that's how close we are now. Like it's awesome. No, for them, I will never call a buyer unless I have something in hand.
Good.
Like I do not want, like in the beginning when I'm first building that relationship. And then usually I'll give them a chance because it's very risky for most people in their thought process of telling somebody an address before it's under contract. I strongly believe the opposite, and you'll build trust so much faster if you go to your buyers or a buyer and say, hey, I have this property. What do you think about it? Can you give me some insight? So then essentially now you're on the same team. You're on the same side of the table instead of just being that middleman, right? You're actually working for them and they're working for you so you guys can both be successful.
My friend Pam does that. A good friend of mine, and she'll say, hey, I found this property. What do you think it's worth? So I love that because then I can have her, because she's already developed a relationship with the seller. So I can say this, say that, or get this, or find this out or whatever. So that is fantastic. What about, and I think you mentioned this, providing.
One more thing real quick on that is now I can go back to the seller and not have to renegotiate a contract. And now I don't look like an ass. You know what I mean? Because that's the worst thing they can possibly do is going back and having to talk those sellers down because it ruins your reputation going forward.
Yes, definitely. So I think you mentioned this. Do you share with your buyers possible repairs that are needed? So costs for things. And then do you provide ARVs? Do you provide comps? What do you provide also in addition to that?
Yes, I'll give them some comps. I know that they're going to run their own comps as well, though, right? So I'll be like, hey, I'm going to send you over some comps. Send me whatever ones you have. Hey, we did do a walkthrough. I think this, and this needs to be fixed, but I would suggest doing a sewer scope based on the year it was built and the type of plumbing it has. And then they can kind of run with that. Or if they have other questions or they want to do a walkthrough. But obviously always providing video walkthroughs, photos, and potentially bids. If you can get the bids, it's pretty powerful as well.
Wow. I would not even think to do that. I love that part. And that's also going to build your relationship with your contractors too, is getting those bids. Exactly. And Greyson, that was a huge nugget. I love that. So I'll wrap this up and we'll head into the next part of the podcast here, but something that will kill the reputation of a wholesaler immediately for me is when they say, I have this property, the purchase price is this, it needs a new roof, it needs all new windows. It's 1,600 square feet. There was a flood. And so there's all the floorboards need to replace. So repairs are only $15,000.
I knew where you were going with that. I knew where you were going with that.
In what country or planet does it only cost $15,000? So, I'm just reiterating that for the listeners to really do your due diligence, and that is going to immediately, I'm like, blocked. Don't ever send me another deal, because I just don't have time for that. So what's your
it really
comments on
muddies
that?
the water. Yeah. So this is actually ironic that you brought this up, because people ask me this all the time. They're like, do you give them bids? Do you all this stuff? Not always, no. But I got to a point in my wholesaling, probably about 5-6 years ago, I stopped giving them the ARVs. I stopped giving them quotes, because I realized my contractors, my parents have been working with for 33 years, they can do it a lot cheaper than theirs.
Yes.
And they may be calling these guys that are ripping them off. So I'm giving them real quotes and real bids, and they're like, bullshit. So I just stopped muddying the water. I'm like, hey, this is what needs to be done. Check it out. So I would literally send an address and a price, and just let me know what you think.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Greyson. I love hearing about, different aspects of things, and you gave me that great nugget there. So I do appreciate that. The second part of the podcast is what makes Greyson a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. So what's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my life when I was 12 years old, and I wrote my senior thesis on it in college, in my business school. And this is ironic, though. You're gonna enjoy this. And this is when it really clicked. They actually tried failing me out of my business school my senior year last semester, because they said it was not an economics book. And I was like, huh. Ended up taking it to the dean, and she did pass me, but I was just astonished, right?
Oh, my jaw is dropped. Isn't
that crazy?
That is so crazy. Oh my goodness.
I'll have to send you the picture of it. I have a picture of it with the big F in a circle, and says, this is not an economics book. I'm like, wow.
Wow. Gosh, that's a great story. Oh my goodness. And then you have since shown them. Have you ever met Robert Kiyosaki?
I have a few times. Yep. I actually used to work with him for quite a bit.
That is so cool. You have some pretty cool mentors. Who else have you worked with?
Yeah. One of Tarek El Musa, worked with him for several years, and
he's so great.
He is great. He's absolutely amazing. And I don't know if you know James Smith. He's in Florida, as well as another gentleman named Jason Palliser. I've worked with Nicole D'Ambrosio. She just got remarried, but she was on The Apprentice. She's a big commercial investor. And does a lot of creative financing. So I think the point of that is, though, is like you need different mentors that are specific to different things. And not one mentor can teach you everything, in my opinion.
No way. And thank you for saying that, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, I am constantly educating myself. And when I started getting into multifamily, I found a coach that does specifically multifamily. And I truly, truly support what you just said there. Thank you for saying that. All right.
And that's why Tarek has 12 different coaches, right?
Yes.
Because he knows that he doesn't know everything.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah, he is. It's awesome.
All right. So the first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It's a great question. I think the best advice I ever received was just to do it with the utmost respect, honesty, and following the direction, like you said, the compass of why you're doing it. Because that's what's going to keep you waking up every day, pushing through the hard times. Because it's not all butterflies and rainbows, right? The markets do change, and things happen, and deals fall out, and we have to be able to overcome that and surround yourself with the right people as well.
And you've been in this business longer than I have, and I've only been in it for 6 years, and I have seen, fluctuations and having to pivot, and I do think that's great advice. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives Greyson to be successful?
It's changed. When I was 22 to 25, it was a little bit more egotistical, and I was making a lot of money at a very young age, and I was spending it, and I was having fun. And now I'm 32 years old, and my focus is on now building passive income, focusing on building a family, getting married, the whole nine. So it's definitely changed a lot.
And I appreciate you saying that, because some people are like, oh, it's my family and my kids and this and that. And you're like, nope, I wanted the money. So
I wanted the money. I wanted to party in Vegas every weekend. I wanted to do whatever the hell I wanted and buy dirt bikes and whatever, but you learn and you grow up, and So it's something I would never take back because it made me who I am today. But I definitely tell people to be aware of that because it does become a little addicting.
Yes,
right?
it does. So, thank you. All right.
Yep.
The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Passive income. I'm truly working on building my passive income. This is funny, but I bought 20 rental properties up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I learned some great lessons. It was my first time buying passive income and not necessarily in the demographic I wanted to. And doing due diligence though. But I want to build passive income so I can do what I love the most. And that's why I've scaled down my business so I could still interact with the sellers and still help them.
So you have a goal of scaling down your business. I love that. I'm in that same boat right now. I hit it hard doing the flips and all that. And I'm just tired. I'm too old for that. So I wish I would have discovered passive income at your age. So very, very smart to Milwaukee. How'd you invest up there?
A wholesaler contacted me and he's like, hey, I got this great deal. So I started running the numbers and sent it over to my private lender. And we did it. We actually got paid at closing. So we bought 20 rentals and we got paid $3,000 at closing to do over 100%. Wow. It was pretty awesome.
I love that. All right. The first S in badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Yes, we are utilizing some different texting platforms, which have now been including artificial intelligence, automations, because it saves us time and we can scale a lot faster. And I can hit 5,000 people in a week versus hitting 500. So that's been a huge help of ours. And then obviously utilizing more technology to connect that and send out the mailers and making sure that we're all on the same page. So it's staying organized more than anything. And that's what we use, the customized, it's actually Podio is what we use.
Okay.
That we had built out for us.
That Podio, I need to find a good system because everyone always talks about Podio. I've never been in it. So thank you for sharing that. All right. So to wrap this up, the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to you?
Happiness. Being able to spend more time with my family. And that's really where where the passive income comes from as well. And then also being known in the market and other markets as somebody that does their business with the utmost respect and honesty. And we're always there to help. I like partnering and I like to help people as well. So.
Well, I knew that about you the minute I met you, and you made such an impression on me. We worked together with Tariq Al Musa, and you by far are so impressive, and the sky is the limit for you. You're so smart and yet so chill, and you're just, I think the world of you. So I really appreciate you being here. How do the listeners, of course, how do the listeners find you if they have questions?
You could use if you want to post my Instagram, my Facebook. Like I said, we're kind of shifting. We're not using as much stuff online right now. So I actually taken my website down besides some landing pages. But yeah, social media, LinkedIn would be the easiest.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Greyson. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.